Alright, let's do this. The final part of the recap. When the ship capsizes, all the people inside get trapped. Ango starts struggling with his PTSD, confusing Natsu for Shigeru. He is determined to save her, to correct his mistake with Shigeru. Ryo and Matsuri realize that the ship was designed to be tipped sideways, based on how the doors and staircases are still upright. Botan, Semimaru, and Hotaru get trapped in one of the rooms and the door is on the ceiling. They see the picture of the ship, with the ship's name HMS Fuji on it. Hotaru says that some research ships like this are designed to tip sideways. Botan says that this ship is definitely a shelter. Natsu starts investigating the rooms only to find something disgusting. Amber Heard's OnlyFans account. Nah, it's actually full of old and decomposed bodies. She finds a picture of a cat named Mimi and takes it with her. Meanwhile, Arashi reaches the seal and finds Yamori struggling to stay afloat. He saves Yamori. When Arashi finds out that everyone else is on the HMS Fuji, he goes in as well. Elsewhere, Botan and the others find an armory full of weapons. Well, it looks like this anime is about to take a violent turn. Meanwhile, Natsu finds a countdown with the title The Final Day. 14 hours remain, but it's not clear what will happen after the countdown. Using the navigation panel, she finds a way up. Back in the armory, Botan and Hotaru do not take any guns, but Semimaru takes a gun and body armor and goes looking for Natsu. Meanwhile, Ryo taps the walls with his hammer in the hopes of sending a signal to Ango. Elsewhere, Semimaru continues looking for Natsu when he gets a bad feeling that someone is chasing him. Botan and Hotaru find the captain's room. They play a video where the captain says that it's been a while since the meteoroid incident. The ship's fuel and food has run out, but the outside world is still inhospitable. The people inside the ships have gone mad and begun to kill each other. The captain wanted to end all suffering, so he set some nuclear missiles to rain down on the islands of Japan. Any survivors will be killed and they won't have to suffer in this world. At least, that's what this crazy madman believes. And now we know what the countdown was for. Even the ship itself has a self-destruct, which will kill everyone around it. Meanwhile, Ango comes across Arashi, but in his madness, he sees Ukai in his place. Blaming Ukai for Shigeru's death, Ango shoots, but his aim is crap with his left hand and he misses Arashi, thankfully. A glass breaks and seawater pours in. Elsewhere, Semimaru carefully points his gun at Ryo, so Ryo stops him by shooting him on his body armor. Botan and Hotaru decide to stop the countdown. For that, they need to reach the control room at the top of the ship. Meanwhile, Arashi and Ango survive the water. Ango comes to his senses and he apologizes to him for shooting at him. Then, they work together to reach a higher floor. Since both their clothes are wet, they strip and use their body heat to keep warm. I think Hana should be worried. Arashi is tired and he falls asleep. Ango thinks about how he almost killed Hana's boyfriend. Natsu reaches a large hallway, but there is no way across. She finally gathers the courage to climb to a high place to get across. Meanwhile, Ango and Arashi realize that they are trapped in that room as the way back is flooded. Ango says that they can live on this ship, but Arashi says that he'd rather be out in the wild, living with nature. Suddenly, they see something that turns their blood cold. Natsu crawling across a narrow beam. Ango gets worried and he calls out to her, but Arashi stops him, saying that it might break Natsu's focus. But Ango does not give a single damn, and he yells at Natsu to go back. When they catch Natsu's attention, Arashi apologizes to her for disappearing and worrying everyone. Seeing him alive, Natsu cries with relief. Then, Arashi asks her for her help to get out of where they are trapped. Ango does not want Natsu to do all that, but Arashi says that Natsu is capable of doing something by herself. Ango starts getting traumatic flashbacks of Shigeru's death. So, Natsu convinces herself to be more assertive and do something to save the boys. She sees some thick wires and the remote that activates it. But for that, she has to go back to the way she came. She does that and uses the remote to send the crane down. Arashi asks Ango to have faith in Natsu. Natsu brings the boys up and they arrive safely. They finally reunite and Arashi thanks Natsu for saving their lives. Natsu cries in return. But Ango behaves coldly and focuses on sending signals to Ryo. Elsewhere, Semimaru wakes up and throws the gun away because it malfunctioned. Ryo gets Ango's Morse code, which says that he is with Natsu and Arashi. Meanwhile, Natsu goes to a toilet where a strange hissing sound shocks her, but she ignores it for now. Far away, Hana continues living in the forest alongside lots of animals. Suddenly, an alligator jumps out of the water and attacks one of the horses. One of the other alligators approaches her as well, but a giant carnivorous plant eats it. The plant also eats one of the horses. Hana climbs the tree and saves it, but the horse is already dead. The horse's baby starts getting sad, so Hana picks it up and takes it away from danger. Back at the ship, Ango scolds Natsu for doing something so dangerous, but Natsu pushes back, saying that Ango is the one who encouraged her back at the beach. Hey, good for her for standing her ground. Ango has hallucinations about Shigeru, and his pain starts acting up. Ryo, Matsuri, and Semimaru come across a sports room. Semimaru and Matsuri unwind by playing some table tennis. Ryo does not understand why they're being so chill right now. Meanwhile, Arashi and the others reach the corridor full of rotten skeletons. They also see the countdown, which is now at 12 hours. As they leave, the rotten section of the corridor starts to move. Botan and Hotaru reach the control room of the ship where they look for ways to stop the missiles and the ship's self-destruct mode. Ryo and the others reach an old elevator, but when they step on it, the old wires break and they start falling. Arashi and the others reach the power section of the ship. Suddenly, the bacteria start moving in front of them. They all realize that it must have been caused by them. Elsewhere, the elevator stops mid-air. Semimaru starts jumping on the elevator, causing it to go down little by little. They reach the next floor and Ryo pushes Matsuri inside, but the elevator falls all the way. Ryo jumps to safety and leaves Semimaru to fall. Nah, Ryo pulled a sneaky on us. Without anyone realizing it, Ryo apparently put a rope around Semimaru. He pulls him to safety. After that, he yells at Semimaru for being so reckless. Ryo silently wonders why he saved Semimaru. Elsewhere, Ango removes his splint. Then he uses a rope system to climb upwards with Arashi and Natsu. Meanwhile, Ryo and the others see a bunch of missiles being transported around the ship. Far, far away, Hana watches as the animals continue drinking water from the dangerous place. Even though they could die, they have no other choice but to come back, just like University. That night, Hana sees a couple of people holding a fire. It turns out to be two Spring members, Fujiko, the black-haired girl, and Chisa, the brunette cook of the group. Hana climbs to them. It's quite a nice reunion. Tears flow, laughter rings out, and they share their stories. Hana tells them about the purple infection which caused her to leave the group. Chisa and Fujiko also tell her about a flood that ruined their settlement and how they got separated from the other group members. Back at the HMS Fuji, Ango and Natsu climb the wall using a rope system. When Natsu loses her grip, Ango's PTSD kicks in and he starts thinking about Shigeru's death. He finally breaks down and tells them about the test where all his friends died. But his timing is pretty bad, as Ryo hears everything through a ventilation shaft. Arashi asks Ango why they didn't work together and run away from the professors. Such an idea shocks Ango and Ryo because they never thought about doing such a thing. Ango admits that he wanted to come to the future, but only because they were all taught that it was the ultimate goal. Arashi cries and says that Ango and his friends seem to have been brainwashed to the point that they did not think by their own accords. Ango tries to deny such a thing, but Arashi keeps saying that they did not have to take that final test. These words break down all of Ango's worldview. He realizes that Shigeru died in a test that they never should have taken. Just then, Ryo and the others arrive at the scene. Ryo says that there is a secret that Ango should know. Back at the cave, Ryo did try to cut Shigeru's rope, but Shigeru himself did it first. Ango's worldview is shattered again, and I already feel sorry for him. But Ryo's attacks do not stop. He reveals that Shigeru was shot by Ukai that night, but he was still working through the pain to save Ango. Ryo accuses Ango of never appreciating Shigeru seriously. But it was Shigeru who came into the cave by himself, who set up the rope system, and who ultimately killed himself by his own decision. Ryo says that Shigeru was a capable person, and Ango should learn to admit that. Ango cries heavy tears. He starts to see Shigeru not as someone who needed saving, but as someone who had the skills and selflessness to save him. He stops blaming himself for Shigeru's death. Then, he punches Arashi in a playful manner for starting this healing process. He even tells Natsu to climb up carefully, but stops being overprotective of her. Far away, Hana wakes up to the smell of cooked meat. That must smell lovely in the fresh morning air. The only issue is that the meat was one of Hana's pig friends. Yikes! Hana does not realize that, and she eats it. When she finds one of the piglets missing, she gets traumatized. It's a rude awakening for Hana, a harsh reminder that she's living in a dangerous world. She gets nauseous and starts crying. Then she throws a rock at the pigs to send them away. Back at the HMS Fuji, Samimaru scolds Arashi and Natsu for disappearing earlier. Samimaru's love language must be scolding. Now that Ango is no longer holding on to his past, his psychosomatic pain stops hurting his hand. He can work with them properly. They all go towards the control room where they gleefully reunite with Botan and Hotaru. Then she gives them the crappy news that they could all die soon. Yay? They have 7 hours left. They cannot escape soon enough because the seal is stuck in thick algae. So they have to stop the missiles from activating, as it could kill the other spring, autumn, and summer A teams. They find out that there are 4 cancellation devices on the ship that will stop the launch. So Ango, Arashi, and Natsu go towards the first one. Ryo, Matsuri, and Botan go to find an escape route until then. Samimaru and Hotaru stay in the control room to guide them through the intercom. Ango and the group reach a vaulted room with a control panel inside. Hotaru finds out that the approval of 4 people is needed to stop the launch, which explains the 4 cancellation devices. They need to input an 8-digit code in all of them and hold down the buttons simultaneously for the launch to stop. This particular terminal belongs to the captain. In order to find the captain's 8-digit code, they go to the captain's quarters. Arashi and the group reach the captain's quarters. There, Natsu sees a platinum bracelet on the captain's rotten body. The code for his control panel. They put it in and it works. Well done, Natsu! Now they need to stop the other 3 control panels. Control panel number 2 has a security question. The name of a pet. Natsu remembers the cat picture she found with the name Mimi. She puts it in and it works. Seriously, guys, Natsu is doing a hard carry for the team over here. But they still need the code. She says that the code of this control panel number 2 must be in the same place where she found the cat's picture. In order to save time, they decide to split up. Arashi and Ango will go to control panel 4, while Natsu will look for the code to control panel 2. Samimaru also decides to go to control panel 3. He reaches control panel 3, where the security question asks them to mention a food. Since everyone starts craving curry, Samimaru puts it in. And that's actually the answer? Wow, okay. Samimaru guesses that this control panel belonged to the chef, so he goes to the kitchen. In control panel 4, the security question asks them which sport cannot be played on the ship with a list of options. Samimaru and Matsuri think about the sports room, and they remember that baseball was the only one they didn't find there. It's the right answer. Samimaru also finds a platinum band on the cook's corpse. The cook seems to have killed himself after he activated the missile. Natsu also finds the platinum band in the same place where she found the cat's picture. Ango and Arashi find the code in a dog tag inside a baseball trophy. Then, Arashi sends Ango to control panel 1 while he himself goes to control panel 4. Natsu and Samimaru also go to control panels 2 and 3, and they all input the codes. Then, they deactivate the buttons. However, it does not stop the countdown. They have under 4 hours to fix the issue. Arashi realizes that control panel 4 is the one not working. They reboot it and try it again. Arashi's control panel still does not work. So, their next plan is to kill the power supply entirely. For that, they have to go to the bottom of the ship. Meanwhile, Ryo informs them that all the exits are being blocked by thick steel doors. Matsuri points out that missiles will probably come out of the top of the ship. Ryo thanks her, and they go to check. Samimaru comes and says that the bacteria is starting to spread all over the ship. And it's true, the killer bacteria chased Natsu and Arashi all over the ship. 3 hours remain as Ryo and his group reach the place where the missiles go out. That will be their escape route. Meanwhile, the killer bacteria attacks Arashi and Natsu. They get hurt and a bit of blood spills. The bacteria immediately jump towards it. Natsu says that she's having her periods, and that must have attracted the bacteria towards her more than towards the others. Ango and Samimaru throw them a rope for them to climb up. Ango creates a counterweight and they push it down. The counterweight falls and Arashi and Natsu are pulled up just in time. But the pipes holding them break because, of course, the danger isn't over yet. Ryo also arrives just then and he gives them his rope. Arashi ties themselves to the new rope and then cuts the old rope. Then, the three of them pull them the remaining distance. However, the bacteria are getting closer than ever. So, Ango throws his gun down a vent and the bacteria rush after it. Safe for now, they rush back to the control room. Since they can't go to stop the missiles, they decide to leave the ship from the missile shaft. As they go out, Arashi vents out his regret for not being able to stop the missiles, which will probably kill all the other teams in Japan. He starts praying that the missiles get stopped somehow. Then, they all climb the ladder while thinking about the ones closest to them. When they reach the top, the countdown suddenly stops and the ship's power shuts down. They all wonder what could have happened. Ango guesses that the killer bacteria probably interfered with the ship's systems and damaged it enough to shut down the power. Arashi thanks Natsu. The bacteria probably spread all around the ship because it kept following her. They come out of the ship and smell the fresh air and take in the warm sunshine together. Botan vows to never use the cyanide and throws it back into the ship. They all celebrate and go back to the seal. We also see all the other teams living their lives quite nicely. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching!